All praises. So like I was mentioning, most of the traditions that you see persons doing today, celebrating today, involving themselves in today, little do persons know it derived from idol worship of other gods. But because it has been so normalized, these pagan traditions has been so normalized that no one stops to ask the question, where does it come from? Where does it originate? Where is the starting point of these things? And so these things are being done today, and persons who are not in the knowledge, what they do is they carry on the tradition. And in doing so, they don't realize that by default, they're serving other gods by default. All right? So, let's get Malachi chapter 3 and verse 6.
Malachi chapter 3 and verse 6. For I am the Lord, I change not. Therefore, ye sons of Jacob are not consumed.
So it says, God does not change. For those persons that love to say, God changes based on the time frame that we're in. That's not so. God says he does not change. People change. Numbers change. Traditions change. God doesn't change. All right? And it's so amazing that people will use that and say, we're in a different time right now. So therefore, we are allowed, or we should be allowed to do this or to do that. Even though it didn't come from the scriptures, we should be allowed. Because in their minds, they think God is a changing God. God is an uncertain God. And based on the time frame, he adapts to what we want to do. God does not adapt to what we want to do. You are put here to do what the Lord told you to do. Okay, so God doesn't change. What he rejected then is still what he rejects now. Even if culture has renamed it, even if culture softened it, even if culture normalized it. Okay, let's get Wisdom of Solomon chapter 14. And write down these scriptures, Israel. Take your notes. We always say serious brothers don't take notes. If you want to come into this truth and don't be serious, then don't take notes. It's as simple as that. Wisdom of Solomon chapter 14. Start me off at verse... start me off at verse 8.
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14 and verse 8. But that which is made with hands is cursed.
That which is made with hands is cursed, right? So now you got to go into, when it comes to idols and idolatry, right? The making of things with hands doesn't just go into the statue or go into the thing that's being formed. Men make things with hands also with just by putting customs in place. Putting traditions in place. That's also going into the proverbial making of with hands. Read on.
As well it as he that made it.
As well as he that made it, because everyone that has made a custom has an agenda behind it. Think of it this way. Everything that you do today came from a custom. It came from someone who fashioned it and who made it, who had an agenda. Don't just think it's something that you do today and it's just, oh, it's fun, or it had an agenda behind it. Read on.
He, because he made it, and it, because being corruptible, it was called God.
It was called God. But the thing is, what I got to show you is this. Persons don't realize what true worship is. People have been taught that true worship is only when you sing, when you dance, and when you bow down. And I heard one gentleman on on a podcast who was defending Christmas. He's a pastor. He's defending Christmas. And the scripture got brought out to him to show him that the Christmas tree came from Nimrod and Tammuz. And he said, I understand that originally that's where it came from, but me having a Christmas tree in my house, I'm not bowing to it. I'm not bowing to it, because people have relegated that when it comes to worship, expressions of worship is the only form of worship. Bowing is just an expression. Singing is just an expression. But read that verse for me again. When it says, has called it God. Come on.
But that which is made with hands is cursed, as well it as he that made it. He, because he made it.
Because he made it. Because they created this tradition. Because of the things that is involved with the tradition. The things that you do in the tradition. The dinners that you eat around the tradition. Right? Everything that surrounds the tradition. Watch this, read on.
And it, because being corruptible.
Because it's corruptible. Think of it this way. Because it has its origins in corrupt origins, read on.
It was called God.
Oh my goodness. Anything that has corrupt origins. The original person who intended to make it, they intended to make it as a replacement for a God. But you're doing it thinking the tradition surround it is just fun. It's just, I like to do it. But subliminally, you don't realize that thing is or was called God. But you're doing it. Oh, it's fun. I like it. It has, 3, 2, 1, Happy New Year. You don't realize that thing was made with the original purpose to be called a God. Do everyone understand that? Everyone gets that. All praises. Okay, so idolatry is not always obvious. It's not always white and black and white. Everything survives. After it's created, it's given meaning. After it's given meaning, the honor, the timing, the reverence, and the emotional attachment. Ooh. You ever realize when you tell some people either Christmas or New Year's is idolatrous, they say, I understand, but I will continue doing it, because they have what to it? An emotional what? Attachment. Let me tell you something. Emotional attachment is something very serious, If a woman cheats on a man, and he looks at her and he says to her, and he asks her the question, do you love him? And she says, I think so. I know. He know that thing is over. You lost her heart. You lost that attachment that she once had to you. And that's why the Lord describes when Israel go off to other gods, he describes it as whoredom and adultery. When you cheat on the Most High God, when you cheat on him, you go and do these practices that he never instructed you to do. That's cheating on the Most High God. When you're going to go to church on a Sunday, you are cheating on the Most High God. When you're going to celebrate Christmas and New Year's Day, those are customs that did not originate from his commandments. And so you make the Lord feel a type of way when you're going to do that and try to justify it. Right? But the emotional attachment. And it's the same thing when it comes to women and men. If a woman finds out that her husband is having women on the side, one of the first questions she asks him is, what? Do you love her? And if he say, man, no, it was just a fling or whatever, she knows somewhat she still stands, because they don't have his heart. He not out there having an emotional attachment. Because if a man have an emotional attachment to another woman, what then happens? What happens with his actions? Where does he spend his time? Where does he spend his money? Remember, the scriptures say, where your heart is where your treasure is. You will invest over there because you are attached over there. Time, effort, money, you name it. It will be invested over there. Because no man puts in an investment in something that he doesn't care about. And when you care about something, you invest into it because you want a return on the investment. Yes? The Lord looks at what you invest in. Your time, your effort, your energy, your resources. Okay? Let's get Deuteronomy chapter 12. Deuteronomy chapter 12 and give me verse 29. Deuteronomy chapter 12 and verse 29.
Deuteronomy chapter 12 and verse 29. When the Lord thy God shall cut off the nations from before thee, whither thou goest to possess them, and thou succeedest them, and dwellest in their land.
And dwellest in their land. So the Lord removed the Canaanites out of that land, gave us their land. Read on.
Take heed to thyself that thou be not snared by following them.
But the Lord warned us early on not to be ensnared by following them, by repeating what they do, by doing the things that they do. Read on.
After that they be destroyed from before thee, and that thou inquire not after their gods.
Don't inquire about their gods. Let me break it down on a very simple level. Anything that the Lord didn't command in his laws and commandments, you should not be asking about it. You should not be asking about the new year. I got new moon on my mind. You should be inquiring about the new moon. You should be inquiring about Passover. You should be inquiring about Feast of Tabernacles and the things listed in Leviticus chapter 23. You should inquire about those things because those are the things that the Lord gave Israel to do as commandments. But it says you should not inquire about the things of the other nation and the gods that they serve. Because we just learned that serving God is outside the realm of singing, dancing, clapping. It's about where your heart is. Read on.
After that they be destroyed from before thee, and that thou inquire not after their gods, saying, how did these nations serve their God?
So how do these nations serve their gods? Very important. How do these nations serve their gods? Do you know? Does anyone here know how the other nations serve their gods? No one knows? They serve their gods by doing what? Having celebrations that you attend. But you attend them not knowing it's a celebration of their God. And you're there celebrating it. So you're at your New Year's party for your job, and you didn't realize this thing goes all the way back to celebrating the Roman god Janus. Okay? And so you didn't inquire to see how do the other nations, what are the things that they do? Did you know what they did when they changed the new year to the winter solstice? It was revelry, wild drunk partying, lots of unclean foods, pork, you name it, on the altar. And everything they do was like a replica of what we do. All right? It's a counterfeit celebration. Because we have commanded feasts in here, and they know it, and they observe it. But they go and make evil replicas of our feast days. But you didn't know, you didn't ask the question, how do they worship their gods? And if you knew, a lot of these traditions today you would not attend, right? Because every day is some new thing. Day of this, day of that. Every day in America is a national day of something. National Balloons Day, National Cake Day, National Baby Day, National Daughters Day, every day is a day to be renowned in the land of Babylon, aka America. By default, and people would ask you, oh, did you know today was National Puppy Day? You didn't know? Yes, we're celebrating puppies all week this week. And you'd be like, oh, that sounds so good. It sounds harmless. But you didn't inquire how the other nations serve their gods. How they serve their gods is by creating a celebration around something, anything other than what the Most High instructed in His commandments. And they got you sucked into it. You didn't inquire. You didn't ask the question, wait, how does the other nations serve their gods? Let's find out. Oh, that's what they do? Whoa, they got us roped up and tripped up and wrapped up in that. You didn't realize. Read on.
Even so will I do likewise.
So even so will I do likewise. Read on.
Thou shalt not do so unto the Lord thy God.
He says you're not going to do so to the Lord Yahweh. Read on.
For every abomination to the Lord,
every abomination, everything that He didn't command in the scriptures, come on,
which He hateth,
come on,
have they done unto their gods.
Have they done to their gods. So they have counterfeit, false replicas with their gods that they try to manufacture and pass off as something good. Read on.
For even their sons and their daughters they have burned in the fire to their gods.
Oh, so where did they get that replica from? Who knows? Burning their sons and their daughters in the fires to their gods. Where did they get that evil replica from? Who could tell me? What do the priests burn in the temple? Sacrifices of what? Animals. Okay? When it comes to blood, blood is the most purest sacrifice that the Lord requires. That's why it comes from a spot-free, blemish-free animal, right? And if it was a transgression, right? On the left-hand side now, a lot of times that sacrifice would be your own blood. But blood is one of the purest forms of sacrifice that the Most High requires. Blood. He requires blood. All right? And so the other nations, they understand that blood is a high form of sacrifice. Because is sacrifice something that you want to give? That's why it's called a sacrifice. Like for instance, for those of you who in the different locations, when you're asked to give towards a certain need that we're accomplishing as an organization, you're asked to give to the need. And you say, boy, I don't really got it, I have this to do, or that to do, or this to do. What you're really saying is you're putting the Lord over what you have to do. Listen, I'm going to give you a quick story. How many of you saw this TikTok video where this Jamaican man, he has 19 children. He's unemployed. He looks after all his children. I don't know how. He was on the thing. He was in his car. He was saying, me look after all of my children, them. Mind you. And this going out to those bum, deadbeat fathers out there who got just one or two, and you don't look for them. You don't call them. You don't give them nothing. Right? You don't provide. This man has 19. And all of them, he provide for them. Mind you, he don't live with all of them, but all of them get something. And mind you, of course, he's in the world. So he's doing birthdays, he's doing Christmas, he's doing, you name it. All the worldly celebrations, he's doing it. And all of them get something. But the thing is, what he does is, he divides up. Mind you, he's unemployed. So those brothers out there who working but they don't look for the children at all, you ain't got no excuse. This guy ain't working. But what he does is that when he has money, whatever hustles he does, when he, you know, our people were hustlers at heart, each of them get something. Even if it's, he said, listen, even if I have $40, all of them, they're going to get $3 or $4. However, they're going to get something. But you in the truth, you would say, boy, no, you know, the most I can't really get that there, you know, because I gotta go do this, I gotta go do that, it's a sacrifice. It's supposed to hurt. The Lord is supposed to see you like, it grieve you. Bam! Oh, Lord! But I gave it. You know how much it costs for a spot-free, blemish-free lamb? You got any idea? You thinking back then sacrifices was easy? A brother over there got 59 lambs and all of them got blemishes. You like, oh my gosh. Where's the next town that has it's 20 miles that way? You reach over there, brother man tell you, my brother just sold my last one. When you got to go temple, you said next week. Oh, next week. Whoo! I don't know, man. There's another brother 50 miles that way. You could check him. I did some mating with him a couple months back. He might have some. I mated my kids with his goats, and you could, and it's like you thought it was easy. You think it was easy back then, but it was not easy, because you had to present certain type of sacrifices to the Lord. But it hurts. You don't have it. And there's certain brothers who don't even have the money to do it. That's how the Lord knows. He has your what? Your heart. When you go make the sacrifice. A lot of brothers don't have the heart. And that's why a lot of brothers think that they worship God. And they think, I'm keeping the laws. That's why Matthew 7 says, that day is going to come where many says, Lord, Lord, but I will not answer them. I will say to them, depart from me, I know you not. Because you thought wearing fringes, showing up to the Sabbath, coming to the new moon, that was the thing that was going to get you in the kingdom. But he didn't have your heart. Other things had your heart. You gladly would spend money on everything else. Your car, get the money. Woo! I want the money on my car. Bam, bam, bam. You want new tires? Bam. You want new engine? Bam. You get that. We have a need inside the church that needs to be fulfilled. Oh, yeah, captains. About that. Woo! I have my insurance coming up next week. My tires need replacing next week. All these things need replacing next week. But this brother on the TikTok said, let me tell you something. All of my 19 children, even if I got $5, however, he split up that 5, each of them 19 gonna get something. Even if it's a point decimal of a cent, they're getting that. And he split that thing up. Brothers, you gotta learn how to let everything get something, including the Lord. Including the Lord. Don't think you have to, but it's a sacrifice. It's supposed to hurt. It's supposed to feel a way. But until it doesn't. I'm going to repeat that again. It's supposed to feel a way until it doesn't. Do anyone know where I'm coming from? It hurts you till it doesn't hurt you. Till it brings you joy. I gave to the Lord. I didn't have it, but I gave it to the Lord. That's only a certain elite class of brothers. A certain elite class of brothers who are going to receive a certain level of blessing from the Lord. The Lord have that top tier of cream of crop men. All men don't make it to that bracket because all men don't get that understanding. All men don't carry out those actions. There's only a certain elite level class of men. Because he has their heart. He knows no matter what, that brother, I have his heart. That shouldn't need be done for my kingdom. He's going to make sure it gets done, or he plays his part in helping getting it done. All right? So read that again for me when it says how these nations serve their God. Oh, sorry, no. We went on to have they done to their God. So read that again for me. Thou shalt not do.
Thou shalt not do so unto the Lord thy God. For every abomination to the Lord,
Every abomination to the Lord,
which he hateth,
which he hates,
have they done unto their
have
gods.
they done to their gods. So you cannot now try to attribute what they do with their gods and now try to come and pin it and say, I'm worshiping God in the same way. You cannot say praise the Lord on January 1st saying Happy New Year, because that goes to Janus. You celebrating New Year's Day on January 1st, the Lord is not accepting that. He said he hates that. Yeah, realize what we just read just now? What they do to their gods, every abomination that he hates, you will not do so to Yahweh. He hates it. You cannot go and eat Christmas dinner and talk about praise the Lord. All praises to the Lord that we are able to gather here today. And we're going to pray over this meal that the Lord told us not to eat. We're going to pray over this pork that the Lord told us in his laws that is abominable. We're going to pray over it and say, thanks be ye to God for this pork that we're going to eat. Thinking that sanctifies it. That's why Isaiah 66 says what? When the Lord returns, all those that sanctify themselves and purify things themselves. You talking about, you trying to sanctify December 31st or January. You're trying to sanctify that thing yourself. Talking about Happy New Year. Thank the Lord. I heard one gentleman yesterday, and he trying to convince me. I told him, I said, listen, it ain't the New Year yet. He said, it is. He thought I was being like forgetful. I said, it's not the New Year yet. He said, it is. I said, no, it's not. He said, it is. I said, brother, do you know the scriptures says the New Year starts in the spring? He said, oh, I know where you're coming from. He said, I guess we got the Romans to thank for that. I said, oh, so you know. Another example. Yesterday, right? I'm at the barbershop. And a pastor that I know, he's in there. And I know him because he taught me history in second form. And as I'm leaving out, he says to me, Happy New Year. I said, Happy New Year? I said, but you taught me history in second form, and you always taught us, your class, to always have historical integrity. He said, oh, you remember that? I said, yes. I said, in historical integrity, you would know that the new year starts biblically in March, in the spring. He says, you are right, but be blessed. I said, we're going to continue this conversation. He wanted to dismiss the conversation because he knows. And I had this conversation with my son last night. I said, he asked me the question, well, if he knows, Daddy, then why doesn't he tell the church that he's over? I said, well, you tell me why you think. I like to challenge them so they could think for themselves. He said, well, maybe because he would lose the whole entire congregation and lose all of those lovely donations and offerings that goes towards enriching himself. So there you go. They don't want to lose out on that, so they can't. So most of your quote-unquote spiritual gurus and leaders and Christian teachers, right? You think that guy, Pastor Mitchell, he didn't read in the scriptures where God says, it shall be the beginning of months unto you, the month of Abib in the spring? He read that. But he's not going to tell his church that, or I cannot with these new age pastors. They would actually tell them, but flip it to them. They would say, hallelujah, and I heard some Israelites talking about, the new year beginning in spring. And technically, while that may be true, church, what it is, we're under Jesus now, and Jesus said we got liberty in him. So if we want to celebrate the new year in January, we're going to do. And all the church would probably just say what? Amen and hallelujah. That's the kind of witchcraft that these New Age pastors have on their followers. That they could tell you that they acknowledge the lie in real time, but they don't have to follow the truth in real time, because just stick Jesus on anything, just because Jesus. And that solves it. Jesus. Oh, we celebrate the new year not the way the Bible says. Reason for that? Jesus. Just, that's a reverse Uno card. Just Jesus. Just poof. Jesus. Poof. That's a new thing. Just poof. Jesus. Does that work? That works? It seems so. It apparently works. Church, you got to be wise. You cannot let these New Age teachers fool you. The scriptures show you that the real prophets of the Lord, the real men of the Lord, they're despised and they're hated of men. If you see everyone loving off and just loving and crowding around these men, they're not the real men of the Lord. They're sent there to pull the wool over your eyes and deceive you. The scripture says that broad is the way to destruction and narrow is the path to life. Narrow. You're not going to see much people on the path to life. Okay? So it's very important. The Most High didn't just say not to worship their gods. He said don't adopt their customs, their rituals, their symbols, or their methods. And don't try to reverse Uno Jesus and everything. Well, I don't do it for idolatrous reasons. I do it because, poof, pew, Jesus. I celebrate the New Year on January 1st because it's pew, Jesus. I eat pork because, not because the scripture says we're not supposed to eat it, but here's the reason why I eat it. Pew, Jesus. That's what they do. I commit idolatry because, and guess what? Yes, I cheat and I do all these unscrupulous things, and yes, I'm the head pastor and I'm sleeping with the deaconess and I'm doing all these different things, but don't judge me because, pew, flick that card, Jesus. What you're going to realize is many of these churches are going to be destroyed by the Lord himself. Let's get Baruch chapter 6 and verse 22. Again, Baruch chapter 6 and verse 22.
Baruch chapter 6 and verse 22. Upon their bodies and heads sit bats, swallows, and birds, and the cats also.
And the cats also. Come on. So this is going into some of their ancient proverbial customs. Okay, what this is showing you, and don't relegate it to just these things, the bats and the cats, and they use points of references to things. Okay, like for instance, in the Hindu religion, they use what for their gods? Different animals. Some is elephants, some is cows, some is, you name it, just different animals. This is points of references. That's why some Indians, they do not sell cows. As if they have a restaurant, they do not sell cows. They will tell you straight up. Like for instance, there's a restaurant right here on the corner opposite of the bakery. It's called Food Point. How many of you know about Food Point? Good. If you know about Food Point, go there and tell them you want a hamburger, extra cheese. Make sure the hamburger has Angus beef. He would say, my brother. We do not sell that. Why don't? No, ask them, question them. We do not sell that big. No, you want to get the answer out of him. He's not really gonna want to say. Tell me why you don't sell that. Well, we do not sell it because it is a very sacred animal. Why? Why is it sacred to you? Well, because he ain't gonna listen. Because I questioned him one time. Well, it is very sacred. It is very. Tell me why. Well, okay, I'll tell you. It is one of our gods. We cannot. So you serve many gods? Well, I'll talk to you about it one day. What do you want? You want the fish burger? I do the fish. I have the fish and I have the chicken. No, I want a beef burger. No. They have points of references for their gods, these animals. So read that again from the top.
By this ye may know that they are no gods.
Uh-huh.
Upon their bodies and heads sit bats,
Mm-hmm.
swallows, and birds, and the cats also.
And the cats also. So if you ever wonder why the other... Remember, this is how the other nations serve their gods. They have points of references which are these animals. All right? Good. Read on.
By this ye may know that they are no gods. Therefore fear them not.
Fear them not. Read on.
Notwithstanding the gold that is about them to make them beautiful.
So they put the gold on the animals to make them what? Beautiful. Now, they're not saying that the actual cat is their god. It's just a point of reference for their god. And they would make a statue of it. A statue of a cat, a statue of a bat, a statue of a cow, a statue of an elephant, and they would deck it with gold and with silver. Read on.
Except they wipe off the rust, they will not shine.
Whoa! But these things eventually do what? They rust, they rust, they rust. These things were made with hands. They're going to rust. They're going to wear. They're going to gather moth and dust. Read on.
For neither, when they were molten, did they feel it.
Did they? Now, imagine your God rusts. You would want to serve that God? If your God gathers dust and it rusts, would you feel good that that's your God? Listen, the God that we serve, Yahweh, gathers no moss, no dust, no rust. He's the creator of all things. You're going to tell me a cat is your God? An elephant is your God? A bird is your God? Or a point of reference for your God? I'm so sorry, but our God, Yahweh, is the creator of all those animals. Read on.
The things wherein there is no breath are bought for a most high price.
Most high price, right? They spend for these things. Read on. And
They
if you know some of these altars that they build for their gods, if you know how much money they cost, now if you gotta go build your God with your hands and spend money, right, Cap? That ain't a God. If you are the one creating your God, how is that a God? How? You created it. You spent money for it. How is that your God? That God don't look powerful to me. If that God was really powerful, that God would have made you. You wouldn't have made it. You wouldn't have spent long hours in the metal working barn, pounding out the metal, bending out the steel, melting the gold, and decorating it with all these things. That sounds like you just made something. How is that powerful? Read on.
They are borne upon shoulders.
They are borne upon shoulders.
Having no feet.
Having no feet.
Whereby they declare unto men that they be nothing worth.
They be nothing worth. Now, stop right there. So even though back then we were told to understand how they worship their gods. They do these things. They build these things. They make these things. They have point of references for them. Cats, bats, cows, you name it. Right? Today is no different. There's still points of references that you may not realize that you are partaking of, that you must be aware of. Okay? And I'm going to list some of those things for y'all as we go down. But some of these things may shock you as to the origin of these things. And some of y'all do some of these things today. You partake of these things today. You don't realize it came from the origin of a point of reference to their God. And you have no idea. Right? But it's good to know. It's great to know. All right? So, idols are not just are not just practices. Right? They're not just things that you fashion with your hands. All right? They're times, they're symbols, and they're certain, let's put it this way. Idols can also be anything you place your affection on. It could be a car. It can be a house. It could be your children. Some people worship their children in directly not knowing. What's the way to worship your children? Who could tell me? What's the way that you worship your children based off of what you know true worship is? Based off of what you know. You know what? Give me a scripture. Let me break this down really quickly. 1 Samuel 15 and 22. 1 Samuel 15 and 22.
First Samuel chapter 15 and verse 22. And Samuel said, had the Lord as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices.
Good. The Lord put this on his spirit, right? To show you what he has delight in. Read it again.
And Samuel said, hath the Lord as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices.
Read on.
As in obeying the voice of the Lord.
As in obeying the voice of the Lord. Come on.
Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice.
To obey is better than to sacrifice. Come on.
And to hearken than the fat of rams.
And to hearken than the fat of... To hearken means to observe and to do. It is better to do that than the fat of rams. So the Lord wants your heart. That's true worship. That thing is true. What he wants is... No, anything that you place above the Lord in that manner, that now takes the place of the Lord in your life. Again, it could be your car, it could be your job, it could be money. And for a lot of persons, they don't realize that they're setting up these hidden altars, right? These points of references that have become their God. And they don't realize it. Because when it comes to keeping of the Lord's commandments, they would rather do something else. They would rather not keep the Sabbath day. They would rather not keep the feast days because I have something else to do. Well, if you have something else to do, it means that thing has taken the place of God. You might say, no, General, that's not true. I just said I had it to do. Well, if you had it to do, no problem. We're not disputing that you didn't have it to do. But if it takes the place of what you have to do for the Lord, then it has taken the place of the Lord. Here's the point. It's not supposed to take the place of the Lord. All right? So, I'll get into that a little bit further. I want to bounce back now to... Give me Exodus 20 and verse 3 to 5.
Exodus chapter 20 and verse 3. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image.
Any graven image, come on.
Or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above. Or that is in the earth beneath.
Read on.
Or that is in the water under the earth.
Read.
Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them.
Nor what?
Nor serve them.
So is worshiping only bowing down? Now, bowing down is just a form of what? Showing what? Submission. So some people like to be very technical and say, well, I don't bow down to my children. They're not an idol. I don't bow down to my car. That's not an idol. I don't bow down to money. That's not an idol. But read the last part. Thou shalt not bow down.
Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them.
Nor what?
Nor serve them.
Service. Service is a part of worship. Do everyone get that? What does it mean by service? Right? How you show up for that thing. So yes, we have children, right? Like many of us do. But they're not supposed to take the place of the service you have for God. All right? Because then now they would become your God. Your wife is not supposed to take the place of the Lord's service. Yes, you're here to serve your wife. Your wife is here to serve you. But Your wife and your service to her does not supersede your service to God. Understand that. And we always try to tell the brothers, listen, every time we got a new batch of brothers for BCT, basic camp training, trust me, you're going to hear the ones who married, you're going to always hear the excuses. And we just listen. It's like, okay, I hear you. Like, this hasn't been our first rodeo. We know all of the excuses. Listen, we know all of the excuses. We've heard all of them. Well, you know, my wife and da-da-da-da. Okay, no problem. They gave Christ the same excuses when he bid them to the marriage. One man said, I got a piece of land I got to go tend to. One man said, I got to go bury my father. One man said, I got to... Nothing is supposed to impede on your service to the Lord, because whatever you serve in front of the Most High, that is your God. It may be your job. It may be your money. It may be your possessions. It may be your children. Okay, not because you're not physically bowing down to that thing. You have proverbially set up hidden altars. Now, an altar, what does an altar represent? What do the priests put on the altar? Sacrifices. Good. Sacrifices, what type of sacrifices? Animal sacrifices. Good. What did you have to do to the animal in order to sacrifice it? Do what? You have to kill it. You have to kill the animal. That is the sacrifice. You're sacrificing the animal by killing it and offering it to the Lord. When it comes to the thing that you're putting in front of the Lord, and you set up these hidden altars, that's supposed to be a point of reference of what you're offering to the Lord. You want the Lord to accept your offering based on his standards, not your standards. Because if it was based on your standards, would you put your son on the altar and kill him? You wouldn't want to do that, right? Why? You say you love your son. If you love your son, sacrifice him. So wait, you love your son or you hate your son? You love him? Well, if you love him, you sacrifice him. If you hate him, then don't. But then in somebody's mind, it's like, that doesn't add up. If I love him, I wouldn't sacrifice him. If you love the Lord, you would sacrifice anything for him. That's if you love the Lord. But when you have hidden altars set up, right, and you're serving things, you're serving other things, and your service of these other things go in front of the service for the Lord, you have now placed these things as God. You understand? And so, serving includes what? What the other nations do. Rituals, celebrations. They have dedicated times in the year for certain things. They honor things through symbols, and they pass down customs to their children. All right? And of course, they prioritize it because they have a set date when this thing is happening. Right? And so, let's go back to Wisdom of Solomon chapter 14. Wisdom of Solomon chapter 14. And then bring me up to verse 12.
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14 and verse 12. Mm-hmm. For the devising of idols was the beginning of spiritual fornication.
Was the beginning of spiritual fornication. Come on.
And the invention of them, the corruption of life.
The corruption of life. Come on.
For neither were they from the beginning, neither shall they be forever.
Good. They're not going to be forever. Read.
For by the vain glory of men, they entered into the world.
Oh, stop right there. The vain glory of men. Men wanted to get vain glory, so they made these gods. That's why they created Janus, so that they can say, this thing was our creation that we made for our own vain glory. But now today in 2026, right? Gregorian year, of course. Gregorian 2026. I got to put that on record because some people are going to wild out and say, oh my gosh, it ain't the new year yet. Yes, we know it's not the new year. All right? Even today, people don't realize that Janus was a Roman god. And they didn't realize a couple days ago they celebrated Janus. All right? Now, you may ask the question, how did they celebrate Janus? Again, worship is not just bowing down to something, it's taking part in. Once you take part in a New Year's celebration, by default, you're worshiping who? Janus. So, many of your family members and your friends and your acquaintances, they are idolaters. And idolatry is one of the highest forms of disrespect to the Most High Yahweh. One thing that he hates, if not the most, is idolatry. You understand? And the Most High almost wiped us out completely because of idolatry. That's how much he hates it. Right? Moses had to step in and say, remember your covenant with these people. Say, if it wasn't for that promise he made, we would have been long gone. Wiped us out. That's how wicked we were. We preferred to worship what? Idols. And not only that, what did we say about the golden calf that was made when Moses came back down off of Mount Sinai? What did the people say about that golden calf? They said that golden calf is our God that took us from where? Out of Egypt. The audacity with our forefathers to say a golden calf took us out of Egypt and led us through the Red Sea and brought us into the wilderness. The audacity. Just like today, the audacity of our people today would celebrate New Year and say, thanks be to the Lord. When the Lord just told you the things that the other nations do to serve their gods, do not apply it and add his name to that thing and think that he's in that thing. You cannot say, Merry Christmas, may the Lord bless you. He not in that thing. Because the other nations, they created that. He not in that thing. You cannot say Happy New Year, December 31st, January 1st. Happy New Year, may the Lord bless you. The Lord ain't in that thing. Take him out of there. I don't know which Lord. Not the Most High Yahweh, not him. So you better take him out of there. You praying over pork? Lord bless this meat. Not the Lord Yahweh. Take him out of that thing. He not in that thing. But of course, that reverse Uno card, boop, Jesus, boop, Jesus. That's what they do, right? So again, idolatry, all right? It can be done even unknowingly. All right? Let's get Jeremiah. Again, chapter 10, verses 2 to 4. Now we're talking about the nations and what they do, how they serve their gods. Jeremiah 10. Go ahead, verse 2.
Jeremiah chapter 10 and verse 2. Thus said the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen.
Learn not the ways of the heathen. So the heathen have some ways about themselves that you must understand. And don't just say, well, whatever the heathen do doesn't concern me. Because if you don't know the ways of the heathen, you could very well be doing them without knowing. But it says, learn not the ways of the heathen. Meaning, when it says learn not the ways, don't follow their ways. But you must know what their ways are to be aware so that you don't do it. Read on.
And be not dismayed at the signs of heaven.
Be not dismayed at the signs of heaven. So the signs of heaven is one of the ways that they worship their gods. The sun. So they have certain cultures, certain nations. They worship the sun, the moon, the stars. That's what they do. Right? Now when it says learn not the ways of the heathen, learn not the ways. You got to understand that the ways of the heathen is imperative that you know and familiarize yourself with these customs that they have, the trinkets that they use, the symbolisms that they implement, so that you can stay clear. You and your family can stay clear of these things. And never be like, oh, what the nations do don't concern me. Because I'm not doing it for idolatrous reasons. You must know it. Because the Lord is telling you to familiarize yourself with it. But now he's showing you, right, specifically, that the things in the skies, in the heavens, the sun, the moon, the stars, read on.
For the customs of the people are vain. For one cutteth a tree, Salakia, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them.
The heathen are dismayed at them.
For the customs of the people are vain.
The customs of the people are vain.
For one cutteth a tree out of the forest.
Now watch this. So one of the vain customs, right? And think of it this way. He says the customs of the people are vain. It is vain. It is unprofitable. It is pointless that they do these things. Because it says one cutteth a what?
A tree out of the forest.
Stop right there. So, do you think that this is just going into Nimrod worship only? No. Do you think that this is just going into one specific God? No. Let me put you on to some knowledge. There are many customs and traditions of the other nations that they use trees as their point of reference to their God. It's just that Nimrod and Tammuz was one of the more popular ones. But the Lord is showing you what many of the nations do. He says, for one. He didn't say, it's just talking about a specific nation. He says, one meaning generally. This is what the other nations do. Because earlier when he started off the verse, it says what? It says, learn not the way of the heathen. Heathen is plural. So this is one of the heathen practices. Right? Read on. So they have point of references. We read earlier in the Apocrypha where they use different animals, right? Bats, cats. They might use a dog. They might use, right? I think, Cap, tell me something. You told me you saw one time people sacrificing dogs? It was dog meat or something like that. Something to that effect where you saw them either saying that this, well, not, I don't think you saw it, but they made mention that they sacrifice dogs. That's to show you that different nations have different point of references that they use, whether it's animals or trees. The Lord is showing you not only sun, star, moon, not only those things, but they're going to use other inanimate objects like trees. So one cutteth a tree, come on.
The work of the hands of the workman with the axe.
The workman, or the man who's going to form it into this idol, come on.
They deck it with silver and with gold.
Remember, they deck it with these expensive ornaments to beautify it, like we read in the Apocrypha, right? And the reason why they want to beautify it is because by itself, it's just a tree. By itself, it's God's creation. The Lord made it pretty by itself. But when you're going to now take that tree that he made and put these decorations on it for the purpose of worshiping another God, that's when you have crossed the boundary, the threshold for what is natural and what is idolatrous. Read on.
They fasten it with nails and with hammers, that it move not.
That it move not. Okay, so again, in ancient times, they used trees. All right, there were sacred symbols. There were point of references. They went into a lot of things that the Babylonians did. They used a lot of trees to worship their gods. The Assyrians as well. They used a lot of fertility rituals and rites, and they used trees to do so. And in the Roman Saturnalia as well, they used trees. All right, that's where you get during the the solstice festival of Saturnalia, what do you see them decorate with? Those, what do you call them? The holly. They use trees. Okay? So, in modern practice, all right, while a lot of those things got removed and their pagan god's name got removed, all right, the practice stayed. Okay? That's why it feels harmless. Wisdom of Solomon 13. Wisdom of Solomon chapter 13. So we'll go up chapter back. Wisdom of Solomon chapter 13 and give me verse 10.
Wisdom of Solomon chapter 13 and verse 10. But miserable are they, and the dead things is their hope.
Dead things, they have hope in them. Read on.
Who call them gods.
Who call them gods. So these are inanimate objects. All right, read on.
Which are the works of men's hands.
Which are the works of men's hands. These things cannot move. They cannot breathe. They cannot speak. They cannot talk. They cannot give you doctrine. They cannot give you commandments. They're dead things. Read on.
Gold and silver.
Gold and silver.
To
so
shew.
If we gotta make something and say that's God, that ain't no God. That's something that you made. Read on.
To shew art in, and resemblances of beast, or a stone good for nothing.
Resemblances of beasts. These point of references. These animals. Read on.
The work of an ancient hand.
Go ahead.
Now a carpenter that felleth timber, after he had sawn down a tree meet.
After he have sawn down a tree. Come on.
For the purpose, and taken off all the bark skillfully, round about, and hath wrought it.
Pause. He takes off all of the bark skillfully. Where do you think he developed that skill from? Who could tell me? Years of what? Years of worshiping other gods. So you have men that just know how to skillfully do this thing. Just like today. There's men who know how to skillfully do idolatry, right? And idolatrous practices. And they do it flawlessly. And it never makes you wonder or question, how did they do it so flawlessly? Because they've been doing it for so long. And practices are passed down from generation to generation. Read on.
Round about, and hath wrought it handsomely, and made a vessel thereof fit for the service of man's life.
Fit for the service of man's life. Good. So, these ancient practices, they still live on today. All right, let's get Ezekiel 8 and 16. They still live on today.
Ezekiel chapter 8 and verse 16. And he brought me into the inner court of the Lord's house.
So in this vision, all right, Ezekiel was being shown a vision of what's going on when it comes to his people Israel and idolatry. Watch this.
And behold, at the door of the temple of the Lord, between the porch and the altar.
Between the porch and the altar, come on.
Were about 25 men.
25 men.
With their backs toward the temple of the Lord.
Their backs towards the temple of the Lord.
And their faces toward the east, and they worship the sun.
They worship the
sun.
The sun. So sun worship didn't just come about the other day. It goes all the way back to ancient times. Ezekiel was shown the vision of his people doing what? Worshiping the sun. Now today, you may not know what that looks like. Today, you may not realize that going to church on Sunday. Now, let me just give you a little tidbit. The Romans named the name of the days of the week after their gods. Like Monday was named after their moon god. Tuesday was named after Tears, their god Tears. Day, Tuesday. Wednesday was named after Odin. Odin's Day or Wednesday. Thursday was named after Thor. That's Thor's Day or Thursday. All right? And come down to Sunday now. Sunday was the day that the The Romans, they worship what? The sun. But sun worship goes way back before the Romans. Okay? We see here, Ezekiel was shown the vision of men worshiping the sun. Now, sun worship also goes back to the Egyptians as well. They still do it today. I had one gentleman tell me he was learning about the truth maybe back in 2019. He wanted a wife. He said God didn't give him the wife. And so he said, because of that reason, I'm leaving this truth. And in a year, I asked him how he doing. He said, I am doing well. I am now an Egyptian. I said, you're an Egyptian? Well, who is your God? He said, the sun is my God. I said, the sun is your God? He said, yes, the sun is the most powerful object that there is. And so we serve. I said, tell me, did the sun create us? He said, yes. Now he's going into all of this about the sun created us. Well, I asking him questions about, well, tell me, how was the Caucasian race made? And he said, oh, that was made because scientists did evil things and they made. Listen, when you're going to go into these other religions, you're going to go off. You understand? But sun worship goes back to Rome. It goes back to the Egyptians. All right? But Sunday, going to church on Sunday means you're not worshiping Yahweh. That tradition came from what? Worshiping the sun. Sunday worship. So all those persons who may think that they're going to church on Sunday and that the Lord in heaven is receiving their worship, they're sadly mistaken. He's not. Because what did we learn earlier about what the other nations do with their gods? Do not do it to who? You cannot apply it to the Most High Yahweh. So going to church on Sunday, you cannot apply it to the Most High Yahweh. Now, we're not saying that you cannot have a service on Sunday, right? Because if we decide we having the new moon service tomorrow, we're not gonna have the Sabbath on Sunday, because the Sabbath is for the seventh day. It's reserved for the seventh day. They're reserving their gathering for Sunday. That's not, you cannot attribute the Most High Yahweh to that. So by default, they're worshiping another God. All right? Good. So ancient wise, they worship the sun. It's still done today. They honor the sun by going to church on Sunday. Romans 1, verse 25. Romans chapter 1, verse 25.
Romans chapter 1 and verse 25. Who changed the truth of God into a lie.
Who changed the truth of God into a lie. Come on.
And worshipped and served the creature more than the creator.
We don't worship creations or creatures. We worship the creator. All right? So this is what you got to understand. The Lord calls anything that you give your time, service, dedication to, your resources, your heart to, that thing is worship, and God calls it idolatry regardless of the intent. You might have good intentions, but again, it's idolatry, because at the base of it, how he calls us to worship him in spirit and in truth, he must have our heart. To worship in spirit and in truth means you're doing it with your whole heart. You're giving all of your service, your time to the Most High. Let's get Baruch chapter 6 and verse 60. Baruch chapter 6 and verse 60.
Baruch chapter 6 and verse 60. For sun, moon, and stars, being bright and sent to their offices, are obedient. In like manner, the lightning, when it breaketh forth, is easy to be seen.
So stop right there. Go back to verse 60 when it says the sun, the moon, and the stars being bright. Right? They are obedient. What does it mean by they are obedient? What does it mean by they are obedient? How could the sun and the moon and the stars be obedient? Anybody? How could the sun, the moon, and the stars be obedient? Every morning, where does the sun rise? In the east. It's obedient. When did the Lord set that in place? Since creation. Has it stopped doing that since? It is what? Obedient. The moon has different cycles. It goes from full, go right down to half, to quarter, right around. Has it stopped doing that since creation? No, the moon is obedient to what the Lord set in place. What about the stars and the constellation? You ever seen the Big Dipper shift and move? And it's not a Big Dipper anymore? Them things going to stay right planted where the Lord put them. And based on the time of year, based on how the earth has turned, you would see it in a different spot maybe. But them constellations are not going to move. They are obedient. But the thing is, other nations see the obedience of these things and they are enthralled by them. They're like, wow, this thing must be God. No, it's the creation of God. It's not God. Other nations are fascinated by stars and planets and the moon and the light that it gives off. So, oh, look at that beautiful glow. That must be God calling me and talking to me. Right? I remember one person said, well, y'all worshiping the moon because y'all keep the new moon? No, we don't worship the moon. We worship God who told us to keep the new moon. You understand that? So read it again.
For sun, moon, and stars being bright and sent to do their offices.
What does it mean they're sent to do their offices? Whatever the Lord commanded the moon and the stars to do, they're going to do it every day. Come on, read on.
Are obedient.
Read.
In like manner, the lightning, when it breaketh forth, is easy to be seen. And after the same manner, the wind bloweth in every country.
Every country, read on.
And when God commanded the clouds to go over the whole world, they do as they are bidden.
They do as they are bidden, read on.
And the fire sent from above to consume hills and woods doeth as it is commanded.
Good. So all of the elements and the creation of God, they do as they are commanded. They are not there to be worshipped. They are there to do what they were made to do. Keyword, made. They were made. So don't you dare go and worship those things that were made. They're not the Most High God. He made them to serve in their office. They have a purpose. The fire, the clouds, the moon, the stars, the sun, all of those elements have a purpose. And by them having a purpose, it means that they were made. If something has a purpose, this bottle, what's the purpose of this bottle? To hold liquid. That means it was made to do that. If the sun gives us light and gives us energy, and it shows you the light part of the day, you can see, right? And it has those purposes. That means it was what? Made. When you see the moon being full, right? And then you see the ocean start to have a different ebb and flow, and the animals start to move different with their cycles and their mating cycles. And listen, the moon, the way the Lord made the moon to be full, and the things that go into the animals, and it has an effect on their mating cycles, and it also has an effect on us as humans when it comes to certain what's the word I'm looking for? Secretions of when we secrete hormones, right? Hormonal secretions are higher during certain moon phases and cycles for humans. A woman has her cycle as well, do you know? a woman has a 30-day cycle as well, and she can only get pregnant. Can a woman get pregnant every day of a cycle? No. A woman can only get pregnant when her cycle reaches a certain point in her cycle. Right? All of these things is because the Lord made it to be like that. So don't you ever worship things that were made for a purpose, for a thing, to do a thing. All right? Good. They're not gods. Let's get the book of Deuteronomy chapter 26 and verse 14.
Deuteronomy chapter 26 and verse 14. I have not eaten thereof in my mourning, neither have I taken away aught thereof any unclean use.
Any what?
Any unclean use.
Read on.
Nor given aught thereof for the dead.
Read.
But I have hearkened to the voice of the Lord my God, and have done according to all that thou hast commanded me.
Done according to all thou hast commanded me. Read on.
Look down from thy holy habitation from heaven, and bless thy people Israel, and the land which thou hast given us, as thou swearest unto our fathers, a land that floweth with milk and honey.
A land that floweth with milk and with honey. Right? So I have not eaten thereof in my mourning, neither have I taken away aught thereof for any unclean use. Any unclean use. Read that again for me.
I have not eaten thereof in my mourning, neither have I taken away any aught thereof for any unclean use.
Any unclean use. So when it comes to rituals for the dead, a lot of nations, a lot of other nations, they have these rituals for the dead, right? And these rituals, you must learn what they are, because you might be doing some of these practices and you have no idea, right? Like, for instance, culturally, there's things that we do not do when it comes to how we honor our dead, and it's prescribed in the law. Read on.
Nor given aught thereof for the dead, but I have hearkened to the voice of the Lord my God, and have done according to all that thou hast commanded me.
All as thou hast commanded me. So a lot of the rituals that they have for the dead, we don't cremate our dead. That's not in the law. Okay? As a matter of fact, do you know where cremation stem from? You didn't realize it stemmed from idolatry? You didn't realize when they offer, there are certain heathen nations, when they offer back this person as a sacrifice to their God, so they burn them. And then they take the ashes and they spread it among nature. And they said, that is in dedication to our God. The Lord in the Bible does not command us to burn or cremate our dead. Right? Now I heard one of my family members them say, right, when they pass away, I just want them to just burn me, just cremate me. And I had to tell them, listen, that's not in the scriptures. They said, I don't care. Just burn me. I said, where you learn that from? They said, well, I see it being done all over the world. I see it on television. But where did it come from? It came from the other nations. They burn their dead. They rededicate or re-offer back the person's soul to their God. So they burn them as a sacrifice. Israelites in the Bible, we don't do that. Okay? Good. And when it comes also to, it says, neither have I taken away aught thereof for any unclean use, nor given aught thereof for the dead. Right? So we got to follow strictly what the Lord said we should do when it comes to our dead. Cremation is not one of them. All right? And we'll get into that some more when we go into some of our ancient practices. Okay? Let's get Matthew 15, verse 3. No, wait. Before we get Matthew 15 and verse 3, let's go back to the Apocrypha. Let's get Ecclesiasticus 30 and verse 18. Ecclesiasticus 30 and verse 18.
Ecclesiasticus chapter 30 and verse 18. Delicates poured upon a mouth shut up are a messes of meat set upon a grave.
So, some cultures, they put the meat on the grave. Okay, they have the party at the grave. They eat and they feast at the grave. That came, believe it or not, from other cultures. We don't do that. Some cultures, they actually take the dead body and they put it on the dining room table and they all eat around the table. Who have seen that? You've seen that? That's unlawful. That's unlawful. Who could tell me why that's unlawful? Because one, we're not told to bury our dead in that fashion, right? And then number two, everybody in that room, they're unclean. Why? Tell them, Cap. Tell them why that is unclean. On the mic for me, please. Everybody in that room unclean. What does the law say?
You're not supposed to be handling the dead.
You handle the dead, you touch the dead. There's men set apart in the law that deal strictly with that. You understand? And they're unclean until sundown, but they would wash, they would bathe, they would, right? But the thing is, if you unclean and then you go to serve the Lord while being unclean, you're going to have some negative repercussions for that. Let's say you didn't know, but you're still unclean. You're not supposed to be unclean and then go do service of the Lord. You can't do that. So again, that is one of the reasons why the Lord never commanded us to bury our dead in that fashion. The other nations, they do it. They have the dead body on the table. I've seen also they take the dead body, they put it in the yard, they prop it up like it's standing up, and the person looks alive. They staple the eyes open, they have the hands out, and everybody go and they touch them and they take pictures with them and they... That's in some northern kingdom cultures, meaning the Hispanic cultures. They do that. There is a tradition called what? Is it called Day of the Dead? Yes? Day of the Dead. Mexico. There we go. Day of the Dead. We do not have a Day of the Dead in the law. It's not something, and many people travel every year to go and celebrate Day of the Dead. Give me the Spanish, for my Spanish speaking, is it something La Muerta? Say that again for me, loud. Dia de Muertos, Day of the Dead. And many people travel every year for this big celebration, and they're celebrating the dead. The Lord says not to do these things, and you're going and you're celebrating these things. Right? What verse was that?
Verse 18.
Okay, good. So you got to understand, this is crossing into forbidden spiritual territory. The Lord didn't tell us to honor our dead like that. Now we can get Matthew 15 and verse 3. All right? Be careful with the wakes and stuff like that too. In Jamaica, they call them 9 night. 9 night. It's a big party that they would have for the dead. We sometimes do it here as well in our Caribbean culture, where, you know, they will have the biggest party for you on the day you bury. On the day you're buried, they have the biggest party for you. You got to be careful with that, some of that stuff as well. All right? It can cross the threshold and the boundary of what the Lord commanded. Okay, because when you're going to have a celebration of something, remember, it can cross the threshold of worship. Always remember that. It can cross the threshold of worship. You're saying you're celebrating this person's life, then I would have to ask you, where in the scriptures say that? Well, it's our culture, is what we do, but where in the scriptures say that? I understand you born going to the wake. You see granny carry to the wake. Your uncle carry you to the wake. Everybody carry you to the wake. When you come into the truth and you ask the question, well, where's the wake in the scriptures? Where is that? Now, honoring. Now, let me just say this before we move on. Honoring someone who has passed. The scriptures say you honor great men. For how long after they pass? 30 days. Regular men just about a week. You mourn them. But it didn't say go into, no, honoring doesn't mean he goes into partying and all of these things. You can honor without the celebration. Because celebration is reserved for the Most High and His feast days. Understand that. Ouch, it might hurt some people, but hey, you can honor in other ways. So before you go to the next wake, ask yourself, is this something that I'm doing that is going off from the commandments? Ask yourself that. Good. Matthew 15, verse 3.
Matthew chapter 15 and verse 3. But he answered and said unto them, why do ye also transgress the commandment of God by your tradition?
By your tradition. So many people would say it's a tradition of mine. It's what I do. It's what I grew up doing. There's nothing wrong with it, just to justify themselves in doing it so that they don't feel as bad doing it because they know they're not going to stop, or it's going to be very difficult for them to stop, and they just don't have any intention to stop. And they will tell you, well, I hear what you're saying, appreciate it, but I am not going to stop. But there's danger in that. Disobedience, okay, can make tradition feel righteous. Justifying it can make you feel self-righteous as well. All right? Let's get Sirach or Ecclesiasticus chapter 21 and verse 11.
Ecclesiasticus chapter 21 and verse 11. He that keepeth the law of the Lord getteth the understanding thereof.
Oh, okay. So if you keep God's laws, you get the understanding. So don't be debating with persons who are not keeping the law, and they're trying to justify why they want to keep doing something, and why they want to justify why they're going to keep that tradition. And they're going to give you all the reasons in the world why they're not going to stop. And you're debating with this person who doesn't keep the law. Because guess what? They do not have the understanding. Read on.
And the perfection of the fear of the Lord is wisdom.
Good. The perfection of the fear of the Lord is wisdom. So once you fear the Lord, no, it's better to fear the Lord than to take a chance. It's better to have fear that the Lord could take you out of the book of life. It's better to have that fear and not do something because it's not written in the commandments, because people are going to argue all day and say, well, I don't see no law against that thing, so it ain't wrong. There ain't no specific law. But isn't it better to have the fear of the Lord and have fear that He could take your name out of the book of life by not doing that thing just to be on the safe side? Isn't that better? It is better. Why are you going to risk it like that and be like, well, I'm going to bother the edge of not knowing if it's right or wrong, and I'm going to do it still. I'm going to let my conscience be my guide. But what if you ain't got no conscience? Or what if your conscience is seared with a hot iron? Or what if your conscience is skewed to do the things that you want to do? Should your conscience be the measuring stick? I don't think so. Let's get Isaiah 29 and 13. Isaiah 29 and verse 13.
Isaiah chapter 29 and verse 13. Wherefore the Lord said, for as much as His people draw near me with their mouth and with their lips,
Mouth and their lips, come on.
do honor me.
They do honor. So Yes, honoring him with the mouth and the lips, right? A lot of people do that. They have good lip service. Read on.
But have removed their heart far from me, and their fear toward me is taught by the precept of men.
So their hearts are far from the Lord, meaning that, remember, the one thing that the Lord wants is what? Your heart. He wants your sacrifice in the form of your time, your energy, your resources. He needs that so that you can prove that you're really about him. Not lip service, not just saying, well, I love the Lord. What are you doing for the Lord? What are you doing? If you can't answer these questions in any real, tangible way, in a real way, then it's just lip service. It's just talk. All right? Let's go back to Wisdom of Solomon 14. Wisdom of Solomon 14, start me off at verse 16.
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14 and verse 16. Thus in process of time, an ungodly custom grown strong was kept as a law.
Kept as a law. So Rome changed a lot of things that they now keep as laws today, that these things have been instilled. All right? These things are now basically the law of the land. And if you're not doing these things, then they look at you as off. If you're not celebrating New Year on January the 1st, they look at you as off. If you tell them you go by the biblical New Year, which is in the springtime in March, they look at you as off. They say you're weird, you're being too extreme, you're being too literal with what the Bible says. They would ask you, are you a Bible literalist? Who've ever heard that? Are you a Bible literalist? As if the Lord will give us commandments for you to not literally keep them. Are you a Bible literalist? Yes, we are Bible literalists because we literally believe in the Lord. And we literally believe that he's a living God. And we literally believe that the living God gave us living commandments and lively oracles and lively commandments for us to keep. And he will literally save us from our enemies and save us from sin and save us from ourselves, who's a destruction to our own selves. We literally believe the word and what it says. Literally. All right? That's it on that?
And graven images were worshipped by the commandments of kings.
By the commandments of kings. All right? Give me Leviticus 18 and verse 3. Leviticus 18 and verse 3.
Leviticus chapter 18 and verse 3. After the doings of the land of Egypt wherein ye dwelt, shall ye not do.
Shall you not do. So, what were some of the customs in Egypt that we were told not to do? Like, for instance, homosexual things. Like, for instance, whoredom. All right? Many sexual sins. So, Leviticus 18 goes into all of the sexual sins. When you get time, read all of it. So, read it again.
After the doings of the land of Egypt wherein ye dwelt, shall ye not do.
So, that goes into birthdays. They did birthdays in Egypt. You're not supposed to celebrate birthdays. That goes into any sexual sins like whoredom, homosexuality, right? Bestiality. They did all of that in Egypt. That's why it's being listed out in Leviticus 18. But it says, don't do these things. All right? And so today it's done in a way whereby it's normalized, whereby the American Western culture is like, it's whoredom. You get a boyfriend or you get a girlfriend, it doesn't work out, you hop on to the next. The scripture says, do not cause your daughter to be a whore. Do not whore out thy daughter. Right? And so you whore out your daughter by doing what? She has a boyfriend this month. It doesn't work out. Next 2 months, she with a new boyfriend. Those are the ways of Egypt. And now so the ways of Rome as well. And now the ways of America and Western world now. And by and large, the entire globe is going by this format. You see that? So boyfriend and girlfriend is not in the scriptures. It's husbands and wives. You understand? And so we're told to not go after the ways of the land of Egypt. So we talked about birthdays. Let's get 2 Corinthians 6 and 16. 2 Corinthians 6 and verse 16.
Second Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 16. And what agreement hath the temple of God with idols? For ye are the temple of the living God.
You are the temple of the living God. So the Lord doesn't have any agreement, and neither does the temple of God have any agreement with idols. So you cannot serve the Lord, Brother Daniel, and still do things that are idolatry based. You cannot serve the Lord and still celebrate your birthday. Now, I'm not saying now you cannot acknowledge that you're a year older and give the Lord thanks for another year, but you don't go no birthday cake. You don't go and do any party because the Egyptians did that. And you just learned that do not do the things of the land of Egypt. You just learned that. That's a law. All right? Whoremongering, adultery. You cannot say you're serving the Lord and leave Sabbath class and go lay with whores, Brother Daniel. You can't do that. You can't. Because read that again. It says, what agreement?
And what agreement hath the temple of God with idols?
You cannot serve the Lord and say you're coming to keep these laws. You're coming to Sabbath class and then leave and then go celebrate Christmas. Leave and then go sleep with whores. Go down to the brothel or the whorehouse, right? Go down to the strip club. For you strip club brothers who still like going to the strip club, you got to come out of that. You got to turn a new leaf. All right? You strip club brothers who out there throwing the ones at the strippers, the Lord going to kill you for that thing. He's going to put you to death because he already gave you commandments that tell you not to do that. Let's get Baruch chapter 6 and verse 72. Baruch chapter 6 and verse 72.
Baruch chapter 6 and verse 72. And ye shall know them to be no gods, but the bright purple that rotten upon them. And they themselves afterward shall be eaten, and shall be a reproach in the country.
So you got to understand, if the thing that you're serving, right, it has life and it can die, that's no God. You should not be putting that as God in your life. Especially these hidden altars that you put, like your children. Now, if your children is the reason why you can't keep a law, or that's preventing you from keeping a law, right? Hey, yo, man, big ups to Bishop Josiah one time, man, because, I saw a video with him and his family. They were going to a tabernacles. I'm not sure how long ago it was, all right? Bishop Josiah for True Hebrews Under God. Check them out when you get some time. Now, I saw a video. They had just gotten their baby, a couple months old. The baby was in the car seat. And they were trekking through miles of mountainous area and regions just to get to the area where they was going to be tabernacling for tabernacles. And he was like, yeah, we out here with the baby, fresh baby in the car seat, and they're trekking through the mountainous regions. And some of y'all would have been like, because I got my baby, I can't make it to tabernacles. Foolishness. Foolishness. Some of y'all make y'all excuses into gods. talking about because my child has just been born, I can't make it. Let me tell you something. My children, since they've been back here on this island, they ain't never miss no feast day. They ain't never miss no major feast. They're going to be there. No matter how young they are, they're going to be there. But I know, I'm just waiting. Some of our people here in TOC, they're just waiting to use that excuse. Well, you know, I have a baby, so I can't make it to tabernacles. Mind you, it's just an excuse. I'd be like, well, my baby's there. Well, you're the general, so you have to be there. You don't have a choice. Foolishness. It is foolishness. There's no excuse. None. And again, you know, all praises to the Most High that, you know, we got some men with us who, they don't make joke. You're going to hear from them when you're giving them type of excuses. All right? You're going to hear from them. We don't accept that here in TOC. Oh, well, you know, I just got a baby, so I can't make it to tabernacles. You better come with your baby. Because if you're going to make your baby into a god and said, that's the reason why I cannot keep the Lord's commandment, and you doing idolatry on that level, we're preventing you from getting put to death by telling you to make it to tabernacles with your baby. That's how you get prevented from getting put to death. Otherwise, the Lord going to kill you and that baby. Since you want to put it above the Lord, He going to kill you and that baby. Wait on it. What verse was that? What verse was that? Was that verse 72?
Baruch 6 and 72.
That was verse 72?
Can.
Sir. Can, sir.
Yeah, can general.
Okay. Good. So, when it comes to idols, these things are made with hands. They are lifeless. Or let's say they do have life. It can die. That should not be your God. You should not have your child as your God. Your child is going to grow up, move out, and go live its own life. If it was born, it's going to die. We're born, we die. Anything living shouldn't be your God. Anything mortal shouldn't be your God. We have an immortal God. Yes, He's living, but He's immortal. He has no beginning of days, and He has no end of days. The Alpha and the Omega. The beginning and the first and the last. None before Him, none after Him. That's the God who we worship and who we serve. Romans 12 and verse 2. Romans 12 and verse 2. Romans chapter 12 and verse 2.
Romans chapter 12 and verse 2. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Okay, so you cannot be transformed by this world. Don't be conformed, by this world. But you got to be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So you got to renew your mind. When you come into this truth, it's called being born again. You renew your mind. The things that you didn't realize was idolatry, it actually stems from idolatry. All right? Read on.
That ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God.
Good. So you could prove what is acceptable. What is the perfect will of God. All right? And then when you come into the truth, you're going to prove it by whether or not you do these commandments or not that the Lord prescribed for you to do. All right? So if a practice was originated in honoring other gods, don't do it. If it was used for ancient worship, don't do it. If it was never commanded by the Most High, don't do it. If it has survived through traditions by being passed on from generation to generation, don't do it. All right? Because what's attached to those things are emotions, familiarity, emotional connection, emotional attachment. All right? Culture is made out of it. All right? There's nothing good that can come out of that. Give me that book in Job. What's that? Is it in Jeremiah? No, Job. I think it's Job. What clean thing can come from the unclean? Give me that precept. Okay, Job 14 and 4, please. Job chapter 14, verse 4.
Job chapter 14 and verse 4. Who can bring a clean thing out of an unclean?
Who can bring a clean thing out of an unclean? Who can now say, well, I'm not doing it for idolatrous reasons. Yes, I understand it comes from idolatry, but I'm not bowing down to it. I'm not going into worshiping it. You're fooling yourself. Read it again from the top.
Who can bring a clean thing out of an unclean?
You cannot bring a clean thing and now present it to the Lord and say, here, I'm doing this for you now. You cannot bring a clean thing out of an unclean thing, out of a thing that was born and origined in idolatry, and now give it to the Lord, or now ascribe it to the Lord. You cannot do that. He will not accept that. And don't think he has to accept it because you want him to accept it. He didn't accept Cain's sacrifice. Even though both gave sacrifices, he didn't accept Cain's. He told Abel, I will accept yours. I find favor with yours. But Cain thought he could just give the Lord whatever he wanted to give, and the Lord would accept it. Not so. Give me Sirach or Ecclesiasticus chapter 34 and verse 4.
Ecclesiasticus chapter 34 and verse 4. Of an unclean thing, what can be cleansed? And from that thing which is false, what truth can come?
That thing which is false, that thing which is untrue, what truth can come from something that is false, that was rooted in pagan idolatry? You can't make it clean. You can't dust it off. You can't now present it to the Lord. There's nothing clean that can come from it. You can't now just use the reverse Uno card and just slap Jesus on it and be like, Jesus. That's the reason why now. Jesus. The Lord is not going to accept it. You understand that, brother? The Lord will not accept it. Why? He's already accepted what is acceptable to him. And what's acceptable to him is written in the scriptures, in the commandments. You now have to employ yourself to learn what the commandments say. Give yourself a fighting chance to learn. We're going to teach you all of the scriptures and what they say and what they prescribe and what you should do. Don't just be like ready to head out to learning the truth. I'm ready to dip out. You ain't learned nothing yet. There's a lot to learn. All right? Like for instance, we spoke about the trees. Let me just run through some really quickly. All right? We just got a couple minutes. Trees. They used them to worship gods. The Assyrians did it. The Babylonians did it. They decorated these trees and they named them after their gods. Okay? They did it in fertility rites and worshiping nature. A lot of what you see today, these tree huggers, they do it for those reasons as well. And they have you roped up into their tree hugging. All right? So the trees were used as a symbol of life and divine symbols. All right? You got sun-based holy days, like Sunday. Going to church on Sunday. That's a very common practice that people do. They don't realize they're worshiping the sun god. All right? They did it in Babylonia as well, in Rome as well, in Egypt as well. They worship the sun. Another one is honoring the dead through rituals. They do what you call 9 nights, wakes, having the feast at the grave, having the dead body on the dining room table, having the dead body in the backyard, in the clothing like they're still alive. These things go into these dead rituals. Many of you, you've seen it done. Many of you, you've been there. All of you have been at wakes. All of it goes into honoring the dead. All right? They honor or venerate the dead through these rituals. All right? They do offerings, candles, food. They have the altar there with the dead body on it. The remembrance days of when they were alive and all these different things. Right? These go back into how these ancient heathens practice their worship to their gods. All right? It's forbidden in the law that you do those things. Birthday celebrations, that's a common one. All right, these sacred observances, every year people do what? Every time their birthday come around, birthday cake, party, you name it. And they're worshiping themselves. They're self-aggrandizing themselves. It's self-aggrandizement on a high level. They're naming themselves to be gods. The Egyptians did it, starting with Pharaoh. All right, the Romans continued it. Now today, everyone do it. All right, so you set up an altar for yourself, worshiping yourself by celebrating birthdays. Good. A next one that people do is set up candle rituals, all right, for the memory of a person that died. Ooh, you didn't know that come from heathens? That didn't come from Israel. Setting up a candle vigil. Talking about we going down here to set up a candle vigil for this dead person. That ain't come from Israel. And many of you do it. Many of you attend it. Many of you go and you attend and you're there and you don't realize what you're doing. You're offering worship. You're offering worship. You're offering worship. Did God tell you to do it? Did the Lord tell you to? No. A lot of the northern kingdoms, they do it. They have the candles outside of the place where the person got shot. And they put all the Mary statues. And you've seen it before. They put the Marys. They put the Lamb of God. They put Jesus in the manger there. They put the 26 candles. You're not supposed to do that. That goes into idol practices. It came from the other nations. If you're going to a vigil, tell them it's okay. I'll attend the funeral. Simple as that. I'll attend the funeral. That practice started with some of those Assyrian nations, how they would honor their dead and having the candles there for them. That's where those early vigils started. You didn't realize, you thought going to a vigil was just a nice way of showing respect for this person who passed. It's worship. You're setting up a hidden altar that you don't even realize you're doing. All right? So it was used, again, the candle. Again, the other nations always fabricate things. We used candles in the temples. We used the menorah. They always take our candles and do other things with it. They're going to worship their dead with it. They're going to take our candles that's supposed to be in the altars, right, Cap? And they're going to take it and they're going to now attribute it to something else. Attribute it to the dead. Attribute it to this. Attribute it to that. When you're going to see candles being used to honor things outside of the temple, tell yourself, idolatry. Okay, because they use it for light, symbolizing guidance of spirits. That the spirits need to be guided the right way. All right? It's very common pagan practice. All right? Good. Another one is symbolic colors, ribbons, charms, all right, for luck and for protection. So you would see some people wearing color assigned spiritual charms and amulets. All right, it says it gives them spiritual powers. It's idolatry. Okay, amulets and charms used to ward off evil. I got my lucky chain with my lucky pendant on with a lucky ruby stone here to water. And let me just mention again, last class you learned that wearing a cross on your chain is idolatry. The cross is a Roman death symbol that was used as an execution tool. And if someone were to kill your family member, would you then wear the tool that was used to execute your family member as a point of reference to honor them on your neck? No, you won't. Christ never commanded you to do that. As a matter of fact, that cross comes from Rome. It has nothing to do with Christ, the disciples, God, none of it. Take it off. It's an idol. The scriptures let you know straight up, these things were fashioned by men. Take it off. It does not honor God. How many of you used to wear crosses? All of us. And you really thought that has something to do with Jesus and honoring Jesus till you came into the truth and you realize it's an idol. Furthermore, when you have the man on the cross, those idols with the man on the cross, it's a white man. It's not Yahweh Shai. Right? So you might get some points if it was the black Yahweh. I would still tell you take it off. It's an idol. If you had the black Christ on there, you still got to take it off. Because Christ ain't command you to do that thing. You won't get put to death. Like that brother who I told you had the tattoo of Christ, the black Christ on his head. He's still going to get put to death if you don't repent from doing that thing. And stop. Never put another tattoo on your arm again. Like Leviticus 21 and verse 5 says, do not print any marks on your hand. People do it for the dead. People do it to honor their dead. People do it to honor their loved ones. They put the print on their mark on their hand. God says, do not do it. The other nations, they do that. You don't want to get put to death over something so trivial that the Lord told you stop doing a long time ago. All right? What about the Easter? That coming up soon in a couple months, right? The bunny, the Easter eggs, the bunny, the rabbits, right? These observances that they're going to have in the Christian church, it's idolatry. Bunnies have nothing to do with Christ. Easter eggs. Bunnies don't even lay eggs. All right? All of that came from worshiping Ishtar. All right? Ishtar. All right? That's where the name Easter comes from. Eoster or Ishtar. And again, Easter is not in the Bible as an Israelite practice. The Herodians, Easter is only mentioned one time in the Bible. And you're going to see it in the New Testament. And it's going to show you that after Herod and them celebrated their Easter, which is pagan, they wanted to kill Yahweh Shai. Or they were planning, they were fixing to imprison him and to kill him. All right? So Easter is not something that you celebrate. It's idolatry. Okay? There's another, I won't get into that. There's other harvest festivals that are not commanded by God, but they're not so common, so I'm not going to really run through that. Astrology, horoscopes, those things are idolatrous. Stop doing that. If you know anyone that's into astrology, tell them it's idolatry. Horoscopes and star gazing with telling your future through the stars. All right, tell them to stop doing that. All right. What about Valentine's Day? That's Lupercalia. That's the god of That's Lupercalia, the god of love. If you celebrate Valentine's Day, you are committing idolatry. You must stop it. All right. And they have like sexual worship masked as love. It's idolatry. It's fornication. It's whoremongering. All right. You just learned about the New Year's rituals. Check out our video. We just posted that some days ago. That thing got close to 1,000 views. Thank you for everyone who shared that thing. Our praises. All right. So the New Year's rituals go back to serving Janus. All right. Making vows and resolutions. That goes into the ancient practice of making these resolutions to Janus. So that's where the New Year's resolutions come from. You would vow to make these things happen for Janus. That's where the resolution comes from. What else we got? We went into the cross. You know the cross is an idol. We went into the the day naming rituals. Every day something. Today's National Bagel Day. Tomorrow is National what? Kitten Day. These things were made by man, and you should not follow them. They're idolatrous. The author or the maker of these things, they had an agenda to get everyone to be, in worship of this thing, unbeknownst to you. It sounds harmless. Oh, today's National Kitten Day. The person who made it is like, okay, you ever familiar back in those days, Cap, when people would make these emails and they want to see how many people to forward the email? They would say, tonight at midnight, Microsoft will disable everyone's account who doesn't forward this message at least to 5 people. And people would read it and say, oh my goodness, if I don't forward this thing, my account will be disabled. And you see how much people just forward. The person who made it, they knew to get everybody to do this so they could sit back and be like, look how much people we get to forward this thing. The scriptures show you. We went over it. It says the maker of these things did it because they had what? An agenda. But you see this thing, didn't look into the origin of this thing, and you just followed blindly into this thing. You got to ask yourself, what's the origin of this thing? Does it come from the Bible? If not, don't do it. All right? We went into some of the funeral services, so you know about that. Praises. Really quickly, musical worship styles. Now, music is a form of worship, yes. It's not the only form of worship, but a lot of the other nations took music and they borrowed, certain things from us, how we would worship, and they went into certain chants, like chanting and, those things, going to idolatrous things, the repetition-based chants, emotional inducement through rhythm. Those things go into idolatrous practices. They're used to historically invoke a certain spiritual state. All right? Now, festivals with masks and costumes and disguises. Give me Galatians chapter 5. Galatians chapter 5 and verse 21.
Galatians chapter 5 and verse 21.
Come on.
Envyings, murders, drunkenness, revelings.
Stop. Drunkenness and revelings. Carnival. That goes into the drunkenness and the revelry. So, those who commit such things, the drunkenness and the revelry. Now, revelry is wild partying, wild banqueting, right? It's wild, sexually charged partying. It's wild banqueting, okay? Carnival. You go into these clubs. You go into these wild parties with the masks and the costumes and these disguises. These things are used to represent spirits, gods, or transformation. Again, the reason why Carnival has the clown suits, the Makajombi suits, right? All of these different masks, it's used to represent spirits, other gods, and transformation. All right? It's tied to idolatry. Now read on.
And such like of the which I tell you before, as I have also told you in the time past, that they which do such things
like revelry and drunkenness, come on,
shall not inherit the kingdom of God.
Shall not inherit the kingdom of God. So, should you continue doing these things, you're going to get put to death. You're not going to inherit the kingdom. You're going to die. The Lord will put you to death. It is that serious. Your life is in the balance. This is life or death. Should you not stop doing these things. Another thing is when they burnt incense outside of the temples, the Lord didn't command that. So you got to look into certain things where they're burning incense and they're trying to invoke the presence of other gods. Be very aware of places you go and they're burning incense. Again, be very aware when you go places and they're burning incense. You got to be on your P's and your Q's as to know what's happening when you go to these places. If that thing is not for Sabbath service or any holy service, and they're burning incense and you're gone somewhere and they're doing that, you might have some questions you need to ask. All right? We're going to end it there today, Israel. All praises. All right? These are the things you need to be aware of. Altars aren't just physical, they're also spiritual. Understand anything you give your time, your devotion, your energy, right? Your sacrifice to, that's worship in its highest form. All right? Singing and bowing are just forms of expression, but it's what you do. All right, my people? Determines who you worship or what you worship. Keep that in mind, because the Lord will be revealing some things in terms of as it pertains to us moving forward and the things that we have to do to get ourselves right. A lot of changes are going to have to be made with the things that you prioritize. People thinking right now they're fully in the truth, but some changes need to be made because of the things that they prioritize. Some of you, it might be your children. You prioritize them over the Lord. It might be your money, your job, your car, whatever your possessions you have. You prioritize that over the Lord, or the other things that you have to do. You prioritize that over the Lord. And you didn't realize you have set up a hidden altar, putting that thing as a God. All right? So we're here to teach you, to educate you, to show you what you need to do so you put the Lord first the right way. All praises. So thank you, Israel, for joining us once again. All praises to the Most High. Be sure to give your alms, your donations, your offerings. The link is in the description below. All right. If you are in America, we do have the Cash App. You just have to message us and let us know you want to send via Cash App, and we will respond and tell you the address of the Cash App that you need to send it to. For those who have the PayPal, it's in the description bar below of this video. All right. And for those who are local in the Caribbean, we have the National Bank Mo Banking that you can send. All praises to the Most High. And with that, we're going to sign out. All praises. And so, Israel, we have the new moon coming up. I want to make sure that all of you are keeping the new moon. It starts at sundown this evening and it goes to sundown the following evening, the Sunday evening. You must keep the new moon. By not keeping the new moon, by default, you're committing idolatry. It says that whatever you have to do is more important than the Lord's new moon. You must keep the new moon. It is a commandment. All right? We must do it. You're called to do it every month. And so we're hoping to see everyone on the new moon celebration that we're going to be having a short class as well. All right? We're going to be having a short class as well for the new moon tomorrow. So with that, Israel, we're going to close out. All praises to the Most High. Shalom.